First thing you should do is try to get something lined up before you leave. As far as what do you want to do, and do you need an internship to get in? Is there a career center? Is there something where you can get a job when you get out of college? The second thing is the university that I went to, they would allow you to rent suits and interview items. For example, suits, ties, shirts. If your university has that and you need it, I would strongly suggest talking to them. And that employment center is there for a reason. It's there to get you a job. Don't feel bad about going in there and asking for help. A lot of guys, for some reason, we prefer to do things on our own. That's not how the world works. Even in the animal kingdom, you have one alpha male being an asshole to all the other males. Eventually, they'll gang up and kill that male, and then another one will take its place. That's just the way that it is. But a lot of men think we can just do things on our own. But if you do things together, it's a lot easier. You get ahead way faster. If you use the resources, and hell, you probably pay for it in your dues when you go to the university every semester and you don't even know it. That's something else that's rarely talked about. All the other stuff that you get charged for that you don't even know where it goes to, that could be one of those things. Like for example, here they send out career fairs. They have alumni. Some resource centers, like the one that I am an alumni of, they will look at your resume. They'll do mock interviews to test you to help your interview skills. A lot of people are really terrible at interviewing. If you were to do one thing good, it's to interview. And something else that I mentioned before, a lot of men want to do things on their own. If you turn in a resume and nobody knows you and you don't have any contacts in that area, it's going to be a lot harder for you to find a job. Whereas if you know somebody, it's a lot easier to get in because you had them as a reference. They've already talked to them. Hey, this guy's coming in. Obviously, most of the time, they can't promise you you're going to get a job, but you know what? You'll at least be able to compete for it. And that's a lot more than filling out paperwork or whatever and you not get anything back. The next thing that I recommend is if you take advantage of the resume, also go on LinkedIn, make a professional picture if you can, and make sure that your LinkedIn reflects what you have done in university and see if they will review that as well as the resume. You would be amazed at how many people get contacted on LinkedIn and Indeed based upon the resume and their description that they have. I get job offers every single day based upon that. And that's something that you should really consider. The next thing that I'd recommend is when you go in for a job interview, don't just show up. Figure out who's going to be interviewing you if you can. Figure out the dress code policy. Figure out as much history as you can about the company. As much. I mean, go as much as you can in depth. Figure out where they went to university, where's this, where's that, in regards to their personal life. Try to relate to them on some level. You may not be the best candidate as far as what they're looking for, but if they see that you did your homework about where you're working for, it's a lot easier for them to hire you because you obviously care. The next thing is, and I mentioned this before in a previous video of mine in software engineering, is ask questions when you're in the interview. What are you inheriting? And the second thing is that I'd recommend is take the job description and memorize it. Take the job description that they give you and make questions out of it. You can bring a note card into an interview. You can memorize them as well. Either one of those two are perfect options for an interview because you can ask them questions just as they're asking you. Don't get carried away with too many questions. Maybe ask 2 or 3, no more than that. The next thing I would do is take the job description, take your resume, and write a thank you letter. That's the easiest thing you can do. And what you do is you take that thank you letter, you leave it in your car. When you get back into your car, you recall the interview. If you can, then you write a personal message inside of it relates to the interview. If you don't have a PO box, if this is not a mom and pop shop, do it in an email. Send them. Add this email as a draft, and then in the bottom portion of it, leave a paragraph to talk about what happened in the interview, and also use your name and that they reach out to you. That will show that you care. Thank you for the opportunity, so on and so forth. It's not really hard to do. It's very easy to do. A lot of people do not do that. And more especially, if you are trying to get a job, as I mentioned before, it's a lot easier if you have contacts. A lot easier. So, if one of your contacts gets you a job, tell them thank you and be grateful. And don't damage the relationship after that by being lazy. If they got you a job and you're in really dire straits, don't abuse them helping you get a job by being lazy. Give back, and if you can, help them up if they get knocked down too. That's something else you can do, is say, hey, you got me this job. In the future, you need me as a reference, put me on there as a reference, and I'll look for you as well. The last thing that I recommend is figure out whatever career you want to do. There's got to be some kind of society for it. There's a young person society for this, a society for that. There's got to be a society. So don't sit here and lie and say, oh, well, I don't know anybody, so I can't get any help, so I just been sending all these applications and haven't got anything. Figure out what you want to do and join the society. There are many people in there that might be able to help you. And just so you're aware, sometimes you may have to swallow your ego, no matter how much education you have, because it's not where you start, it's where you end up. If you start somewhere, not necessarily where you want to go, but you start there, you have a good reputation, and you want to move to a different department or whatever, your reputation will carry you into that. And as I mentioned before, if you use the context in the groups as far as, hey, are you looking for this? And get to know the people, talk to them, figure out, is this company good, this company not good, figure out the culture, the environment. See, that's what you want to do. That's the reason why these groups are created. It's a lot easier to get into. A lot of people have some kind of phobia, like I said, of like they want to do everything by themselves, and that you have to have help to find work to a certain degree. I mean, unless you have your own business, even then you have to find people to work for you. So all in all, it's about talking to people, relationships, who you know, who you can call up. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. And when they call you, pick up the phone and help them if you can. You know, I've done that many times. I've helped plenty of my friends get jobs, and in return, they've helped me get jobs as well. That's something that is easy for you to do, because if you do that, you're known as a person that can help people. And you'll always have a Rolodex as far as people, as they would say in the old days, of, hey, this person helped me, he can help you, and then you get to know different people by doing that. And that will help you build the network that you need, and you can kind of hear, like, for example, you work in one company, and then you know someone who's working in another company, and you hear whispers like, hey, this is opening up, hey, you might want to consider this, this is a better opportunity over here, this is, and you kind of, okay, well, why don't we have lunch and talk about it? Ask questions during the lunch. What is the culture like? What is this? What is that? What do you do in your job? So on and so forth. And you get some insight before you even apply, and then you had them as a reference on the paper. I've had 2 or 3 lunch meetings before I decided to take a job somewhere, and it was extremely helpful in figuring out the interview process, what to expect, what not to expect. It was a lot easier to navigate because I already knew it was there. So the anxiety level was really low. I was able just to be natural and go along with the flow, and I knew what to expect. It's like, for example, in college, when you take an exam and you know what's on the exam, it's a lot easier to take than studying for all kinds of different stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, none of that was on the exam, which is really annoying. And it happens sometimes because the professors like to do that, or the doctors. So it's easier to know, at least you have some kind of cheat sheet, some kind of formula sheet where you can refer back to, thinking, okay, I kind of know what I'm getting here. And once again, as I mentioned before, the person you're talking to, they know people that are hiring. They know those people sometimes. They can reach out to them. You get to figure out, okay, you can look in their LinkedIn, you can look at everything. Try to relate to them on some level of whatever it is that you're trying to do. That way, it's easier for you to get the job. You may not have 100% lock of, hey, I'm going to get this job, but you can increase your percentage chance by doing your homework before you ever walk in that door or before you ever turn in a resume. And if you guys have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments, and y'all have a nice day.